back with you once again, and today I'm going to do something a little bit different. Well, I'm going to do kind of a hodgepodge or a potpourri, a number of different topics today. Rather than coming out here and spending the whole time on one issue that we look at in depth, I wanted to touch on 2 or 3 different things that have been around the media and that have been coming up that I had some thoughts on. So I think we'll do something a little bit different today. That's what we'll do. We'll talk about 2 or 3 different little things that are going around, and hey, towards the end of this thing we'll even talk a little bit of college football, so you'll want to look forward to that. Those of you who are college football fans, you'll enjoy that, and those of you who are not college football fans, well, you're probably communists, so what can I say? But so I wanted to talk about a couple of things that have been in the news. First thing I wanted to talk about was something that you might have heard of. I don't know that this got any sort of front page headlines, but something that you might have seen on the internet or on YouTube, or that you might have seen or heard on your local talk radio show or something. It seems like there was an issue recently over at the Jefferson Memorial in Washington where this flash mob decided they were going to come in and dance, and there was an altercation with the police. Now, let me set the stage for you here. Because a lot of you are probably, my age or older, and you're wondering what the hell is a flash mob. Basically, that's some sort of thing that these kids do these days, where I guess they use social networking sites and Facebook and that kind of thing, and they all get a big group of people together through the internet and decide on an appointed time and place, and they all show up at this one place and time and dance for no apparent reason. I don't get it. It seems kind of pointless to me, but hey, they're kids, and young people are always going to have some stupid fad that they do for no apparent reason. I mean, years ago, college kids used to see how many of each other they could stuff in a phone booth, and when I was in college, people used to go to Dave Matthews concerts. So there's all sorts of inane things that people do when they get to that age, and I guess for this generation, it's this whole flash mobbing thing that they do. Okay, whatever. I don't really get it. But anyhow, they made the plans to do this at the Jefferson Memorial, and I guess word of this leaked out or something. And the authorities had found out about it, and so they quickly passed a law saying that essentially you couldn't do this. That if over 11 people were dancing, it was, I don't remember the whole law, but they hastily passed some kind of law to prevent this. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm in favor of that kind of law, or that I think that's a real, legitimate use of the time of our lawmakers, but, whatever. The law was passed. So these kids found out that the law was passed, that it was now illegal to do this flash mobbing thing, and yet they went there and did it anyway. And of course, some of these numbskulls had a little camera with them, and so they go out there and violate the law, and the police apprehend them as, you would expect. And so now there's this big uproar of police brutality, and, oh, it's denying me my freedom of speech, and, oh, come on. Like I said, I'm not going to tell you that I'm in favor of the law, but the fact is the law was on the books. And sure, maybe the law is stupid, maybe it's not, but it is there. I don't get the flash mobbing thing. I could have accepted it, except for the fact that these kids, after having been informed that this law was now on the books, they cannot do this, that they intentionally and egregiously and purposely went out there to intentionally break that law. To me, that's where you cross the line from stupid teenage prank to an egregious disrespect for authority, to a disrespect for our nation's history and its institutions, to a disrespect for your elders and what they tell you that you should hold reverence for. To me, that's a real problem. That they don't, when they're confronted by their elders and by society to say, it's really not appropriate for you to do this behavior at a place like the Jefferson Memorial, and they go and do it anyway, they're essentially, I hate to use this terminology, but they're pissing on the history and they're pissing on the institutions of this country. Now that's unacceptable. That cannot be tolerated from youth in any way, shape, or form. The problem is, for 2 or 3 generations now, we've allowed the youth to kind of, push back at us and tear down our institutions and not hold the reverence that they should hold for them, and not hold the reverence for our values that they should hold. and not hold the respect for authority and respect for elders that they should have. And look where it's gotten us. We've got a generation, as I said in an earlier piece in the What's Wrong with the Youth of America presentation that I did, we've got a group of people now that aren't even grown-ups when they get past 18 years old. They want to live with their parents. They want to go out into the working world and think that their employer should take care of them. And think the government should take care of them. They don't have the balls to stand on their own feet. They don't have the wherewithal to go out and do something with their lives. They're too afraid to do it. They're too cowardly to do it. And why? Because we've held their hand the whole time. And when they try and do stupid things like this, they try to disrespect our authority, we don't slap them on the hand anymore. We don't swat them on the fanny anymore. We don't punish them. Instead, we let them get away with it, and they get this entitlement mentality where they think that, well, if I don't like a law, I can just go and violate it anyway because that law is stupid. No, you kids, you're stupid. You're the ones that don't understand what built this country. And you're the ones that need to have an attitude adjustment real quick. And I'll tell you this, there's people complaining about police brutality and all this. You kids want to see some brutality, police or otherwise, I'll take you to some inner city any night of the week. You'll see stuff you won't believe. So as far as I'm concerned, those kids that went out there and got arrested and, roughed up a little bit, they got everything they deserved. Probably should have happened to them earlier in life. Might have made them better human beings. But I hope this serves as a lesson to these miscreants that they better get in line and they better assimilate into the way we do things in this country. Because if you don't, it's going to be that generation that ends up running this nation off the tracks. You saw what they did in the last election. They voted for Barack Obama. That shows you how ill-prepared they are to exist in a civilized society. So there's my thought on the flash mob thing. Now I want to go into another topic. And this next topic kind of ties in a little bit to what we talked about last week on our presentation on what the GOP can learn from the Donald Trump campaign. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been hearing things from personal friends of mine as well as hearing it from conservative bloggers and conservative columnists and observers. I've heard a lot of people say something to the effect of, there's just not a Republican candidate out there that excites me yet. And they seem kind of worried about that. They seem kind of taken aback by that. And I wanted to address that a little bit. First of all, when I hear people say that, my first thought is that if all I'd seen is the media coverage and if all I'd listened to is the Republican National Committee, I'd probably agree with them. Because the media's going to tell you flat out that it's going to take some kind of overbearing personality from the GOP to win the election. The Republican National Committee is going to just keep shoving people at you like Tim Pawlenty and Mitt Romney, who are moderates to say the least. So yeah, if those are the only influences you have, I can see why you're worried. I remember an old hockey axiom that they used to say that, when you as a hockey coach, if you keep reacting to what the other coach does, then pretty soon the other coach is going to be the one controlling your bench. And I think that's what some of these people are finding themselves into, these people that say there's no exciting candidate out there. I think they're being lured into that trap of the left and the media trying to pick our candidate for us. And even the RNC trying to pick our candidate for us. And we can't let them do that. If you take a step back and you look at the big picture, you start to see that, yes, there are some exciting candidates out there. There are some people out there we can get behind. There are some people out there that we can identify with. There are some people out there who are good Americans. People like Herman Cain, or maybe Sarah Palin, or Michelle Bachmann, maybe an Alan West, maybe even a Marco Rubio. All of those people and many more that we probably aren't even on the radar screen yet. There's people out there who share our viewpoints and who would make a great president. Now, does that mean all of those people I just named are going to run? No, probably not. But there are some people out there. Chris Christie, on the off chance he were to run, even though he said he's not going to. There's a lot of people out there who are saying the right things. It's just not being reported very much. And the RNC doesn't have the balls to get behind them. But there are some people out there who we can be proud of. There are some people out there that we can look at and say, yeah, I'm proud for that person to be our presidential candidate. People like a Herman Cain or a Michelle Bachmann, maybe a Sarah Palin. There's even people like that if they're to win the election, we can look at them and say, yeah, I'm proud that is America's president. I'd be so proud to say that Herman Cain is America's president. or that Sarah Palin is America's president, or that Michelle Bachmann is America's president. Whereas I'm ashamed to say that Barack Obama is America's president. So there's a lot of things to be excited about, a lot of potentially great people out there in a great field that's potentially there. So I don't really get all the moping around and fearfulness that we're not going to get that perfect candidate. We don't need a perfect candidate. We just need someone who can beat Obama, and that's not going to be all that hard. You know, I wonder sometimes if some of these people that are so down in the dumps about this, I wonder if they're looking for the Republican Barack Obama. And if they are, and by that I mean someone who just has this great charisma and looks great in a suit and can deliver a rabble-rousing speech and can just make you feel so good about voting for him. If that's what some of you in the conservative movement are doing, I'd like to smack you back to reality a little bit. We on the right, more so than anybody in American politics, have always understood that substance is more important than style. Now, you can't say that for the Democrats. The Democrats have always had to have those candidates with that big personality and that flair and that just jump out of the TV at you. That's what they respond to best. Your Barack Obamas, your Bill Clintons, your John F. Kennedys, all of them had that flair for the dramatic, if you will. But in varying degrees, all of them were rather unfit to lead. They really didn't have the knowledge or the instinct or the moral foundation to actually lead. It was empty words in a suit. Republicans are better than that. Conservatives are better than that. We want something more than just some guy who can give a good speech, or some guy that can give a good soundbite, or some guy that makes you feel good, or some guy that inspires you. And to hell with inspiration. We can inspire ourselves. What we need is a candidate that provides the substance and not the flash. Let them have the flash on the Democratic side. That's all they're built on is flash. They don't have any substance behind it, but we do. So stay strong and look at that big picture and remind yourself that, yeah, there are some very qualified, very good people out there. And don't, by the way, don't let people tell you that, oh, Sarah Palin can't win. You know what? They want us to think that. If Sarah Palin can't win, if Sarah Palin can't resonate, and I'm using her as one example here, but if any of these people can't resonate and can't have a chance of winning, then why is it that they get all these people to show up at these rallies and get so excited behind them? Why is it they're selling books hand over fist? There's more to these people than the left want to admit. And the reason the left is telling you they can't win is because they're scared to death of them. They want a Mitt Romney to run. They want a Tim Pawlenty to run because A, they know they'll be easier to beat, and B, on the off chance they do lose and a Pawlenty or a Romney gets in, they know they'll be able to negotiate with them. That's why they want him to win. So don't let them pick our candidate. Don't let them control our bench. We'll decide who's going to run on this ticket, and we'll decide who the next president's going to be. To the media and to the left, we don't need your help. Thank you very much. And the final topic I wanted to talk about tonight, which has nothing to do with politics at all, but just something I find interesting, is a little bit of college football. Now, some of you might know I'm a big college football fan. I think it's one of the great sports in America. I love it. I think it's just, there's just few things in this nation that are more inspiring than a Saturday afternoon on a campus of a major football program. It's that great slice of Americana, and I love it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the fallout from the situation at Ohio State University this week. For those of you who might not know, Jim Tressel was the coach over there, head coach, and he has been for about 9 or 10 years, I guess it was, and put together a magnificent record. He beat their rival Michigan like 9 out of 10 times. He won 5 or 6 conference titles. He won a national title. He got to 5 or 6 BCS bowl games. He had Ohio State on national television every week. I mean, he had that football program humming along at about the highest level you can. He did a hell of a job. But he was forced to resign this week because of an issue with some players selling some memorabilia and for some tattoos or giving away some things for some favors or money. And it just reminded me how out of touch the NCAA and their archaic rules are with the real world. I mean, just when you're excited for a college football season, here comes the NCAA in to ruin everything. You know, the NCAA, for those of you who don't know the history of it, it's a bunch of university presidents and other assorted academics trying to interfere in sports and use their bizarre worldview to legislate this juggernaut of capitalism, that this football and basketball that brings in so much money, and they're trying to dictate who gets the money and how, and you know, how the big boys play their football and all that. Oh, it just sends steam out my ears when I think about it. You know, it just illustrates how out of touch they are, that they can put such a priority on somebody selling a piece of personal property like a championship ring or a pair of pants to someone for some money or a tattoo or something like that, that they think it's worth the time and money to investigate it and launch this investigation and go after these guys and put them on probation and all this other crap. When you stop and think about it, if that's what the NCAA, you know, pursues all the time, and that's just, to them, that's the worst thing in the world for someone to, heaven forbid, turn a profit from playing college football, some player, to turn a profit or make a little money. If that's the biggest thing they have to worry about, you know, I gotta ask, who is harmed by that kind of thing? Let's say that some kid gets a little money for playing football. Or let's say that some kid sells his championship ring. Who's harmed by that? Is the kid harmed? No, he's getting some money out of it or some good or service. I mean, why do we send kids to college to begin with? We send kids to college so that they'll gain the skills necessary to exist in the real world. Well, gee, bartering and using what you have to get what you want, that is one of the big things that you have to survive in the real world. It seems to me that if you prevent kids from doing that, you're doing them a disservice. You're not allowing them to learn one of the key lessons of life that you should learn as you go into adulthood. Are the fans harmed by these athletes who are getting some benefits? No. I mean, I'll tell you as a fan right now, I couldn't care less if the football players I watch on Saturday are paid or not. I don't care if it's a dirty program or not. I want to see good football. I really don't care if some alumni gives a kid a $100 handshake somewhere. I don't care if you got a nice car to come play for the school. I want to see good football. I really don't care what their grade point average is. I really don't care if they graduate. I want good football. So the NCAA is completely off the mark with what the fans want and with what's good for the kids. So I think it's kind of sad, and I think the NCAA has really outlived their usefulness as far as college football goes. I don't see what they add to the sport of any positive nature whatsoever. I would love to see, and I know it's not going to happen, but I would love to see one day a lot of these big-time football schools like your Texases and Alabamas and Oklahomas and Ohio States, I'd love to see them all stand up and just walk out of the NCAA and tell them to go to hell and say, you know what, we are going to pay our players. And we are going to make our own rules. You know, you don't need the NCAA for anything. The reason it doesn't happen, incidentally, is because of that damn basketball tournament the NCAA does every year, as though basketball is really a sport. But nevertheless, that tournament brings in enough money every year that everybody kind of stays with the NCAA for that reason. You know, before that tournament got so big, back in the 60s and 70s, back in the late 70s, there was a push by a few schools to walk out of the NCAA for very similar reasons. You know, the NCAA was trying to put all of these restrictions on scholarships, which they ended up doing. And all of that was brought about by the little schools, smaller schools, forcing the big schools to do that. You know, that's how the NCAA has always been run. It's always been the little guys holding the big guys hostage. Not unlike typical liberal politicians, mind you. There's probably a connection there somewhere. But nevertheless, all of that happened back in the 70s, and there was some talk of some schools leaving. That ended up not happening because they couldn't get the Pac-10 and the Big Ten in their entirety to go along at that time. I wish they would have. Might be too late now, but you know, the NCAA is just a ridiculous organization enforcing ridiculous rules that really don't protect anybody. You know, they protect everybody from an imaginary harm. And the last thing I wanted to say about this little Ohio State incident is the media portrayal of it. I think that's been nothing short of disgusting. A lot of this came about with the NCAA investigation because Sports Illustrated was writing some sort of article or investigating the Ohio State program. And again, why do you care? Why do you need to investigate that? What do you care if some kid got a little bit of money or got some extra benefits? Ohio State fans don't care. College football fans really don't care. Sports Illustrated was doing what the media, the non-sports media typically does. Trying to muckrake and trying to create a situation where there's not a situation. Or not a significant situation. Trying to make a mountain out of a molehill. Trying to make their own changes to things rather than just let things happen as they are. And then I noticed once all this came out, ESPN jumped on the bandwagon too. First of all, you got to know something about ESPN. They're located in Bristol, Connecticut, right over on the East Coast. Now, college football, for those of you who might not be aware, college football is mainly a Southern and a Midwestern thing. That's the part of the country that really appreciates the institution and understands it and loves it for what it is. People on the East Coast, by and large, don't understand college football. They don't have an appreciation for it, and they either hate it or want to radically change it. And you see ESPN do this all the time. I mean, every year they're out there trumpeting against the BCS and how that needs to be changed. And, oh, we need a playoff in college football. Oh, blow it out your ass. You people were never college football fans anyway. You're from freaking Connecticut. Why don't you go down south and ask people if they want a playoff? They don't. Go to the Midwest, ask people if they want a playoff. They don't. We like the BCS. We don't need you people from the East Coast and you Yankees trying to change it. We don't need you trying to change college football either. And I saw last night some of these yahoos from ESPN, somebody was interviewing Urban Meyer about all this, former coach at Florida. And he said, what can we do to fix college football? And I'm thinking, who in the hell said college football was broken? There's nothing wrong with the sport. But yet you're running off the mouth as though something needs to be changed about our glorious sport. It doesn't. You know, and then I'm sitting there today watching it, and they're just going off on more of this, saying, oh, well, Jim Tressel, the coach, he needs to take more responsibility for this and not Terrell Pryor, even though Pryor is the one who broke the rules. And they're castigating the Ohio State fans for, you know, going at Terrell Pryor on Twitter and holding up for Jim Tressel. You know, you people from the East Coast, you freaking Yankees, need to blow it out your ass. This isn't your sport. It's ours. College football belongs to us. College football belongs to Middle America. College football belongs to the South. College football belongs to flyover country, and we don't need you Yankees and you Ivy Leaguers and you academics trying to ruin it. Get the hell out of it and let us run it. So there's my 2 cents on Ohio State. I think a good man, Jim Tressel, was wrong by this whole thing. And I think a bunch of Yankees and reporters are trying to glom onto the thing and make it out to be a lot more than what it is. You know, they want to change our sport irrevocably. They have a bizarre view of what it should be, just like in the non-sports media, a lot of your East Coast people, a lot of your Yankees have a bizarre viewpoint of what the world should be, and that's how they report the news the way they do. I think there's a lot of similarities there in sports reporting and conventional news reporting as we go into the 21st century. A lot of those people were trained by the same journalism schools and have the same backgrounds, so something to watch. But anyhow, I'm still looking forward to college football season. I just hope that we can get ESPN to shut the hell up about this stuff and start talking about the game, and I'm looking forward to that. So that's our hodgepodge of items for this week. We'll see what comes up on the radar next week. Until then, so long.